What's happening, everybody? Well, shit. Welcome to the Paranormies present the Ahnenerbe Hour. I'm Johnny Monoxide, and I don't know how to control the fucking volume tonight. Tonight, joined by Adam Haidt, Scott Taylor, who's back with us, and again, back with us one more time is our friend Zev. What's up, guys? Hello, Goyim.
Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Everybody, everybody ready for Christmas? Let's get all your Hanukkah shopping done.
I fucking hate Christmas.
Yeah,
I hate Christmas. I hate.
It makes me feel like a communist.
I hate buying things. I hate having to go to like 20 different fucking houses. I hate having to cook a Christmas dinner.
You're really the most
like
anti-holiday
I'm just gonna
person,
get
I
that
have to
out
say.
now.
Wow, total Scrooge.
I don't even like celebrating my own birthday. Like that, I just don't.
Well,
like
you know they're not counting down. You got to that point where you're just like, wow, it really keeps happening.
That's pretty funny.
Those numbers just keep rolling. Well, I guess that ties in with our theme.
Oh, Scott giving away the game right off the bat. That's all good. It's all good. We're doing that thing now where we don't shitpost for 10 minutes before we get into the topic. But no, we are going to be talking about Krampus. So, what's up, Zev? By the way, I didn't hear you back there. How do you feel? How do you feel about Christmas?
How you doing? I love the tradition in the season. I really do. It feels like a magical time of year for me. But listening to the radio at work, or, catching like TV, all the advertisements and like just basic consumerist bullshit makes me feel like a fucking pinko because I'm sick of it.
I think I'm right there with you with the consumerist part of it. I don't want to go too much into that because every other show this week has already talked about how much Christmas has been kiked. But I do love the tradition. I've got the kid, so he loves Christmas. He still believes in Santa. We got that going for us. But yeah, we do. I mean, we do. Yeah, and plus, I love the Christmas food. And I know, Scott, you hate doing the dinners and stuff, but like we do, Christmas pretty big when it comes to food.
I don't know. I like Christmas just because I'm at a point where that's like the only time I see my family is like holidays. So I like seeing my family, whether or not it's Christmas or not. Is like I guess not that relevant.
I don't get to see much of my family, but I do have, I have the little fam now. So we're all, it's going to be a great Christmas this year. Just because, my kid doesn't have to go back and forth, which is nice for once. So there's that. When I was a kid, divorced Christmases were it's like I don't know. It's like a double-edged sword. It's like, it's great because you get twice the presents because fucking, you get the parents trying to outdo each other, and then you get to go to like all the, the step parents' house and that, and you get, you seem to make out a little better, like if you're like, really into getting stuff, but at the same time, you're missing out because your family's split up. So
let's be real though. The real red pill when you grow up is that getting socks for Christmas is pretty great.
Yeah,
dude, socks and pajamas.
Socks for Christmas right now.
All right, socks and pajamas. Those are my and yeah. Dude, onesie PJs.
Onesie pajamas.
Yeah, dude.
Oh man, I'm in the Christmas
hot cocoa
spirit already.
The best Christmas movie of all time, which of course is Die Hard. And if anybody counter signals Die Hard, I will disconnect you from the call. What do you guys? No, I'm kidding. What do you guys like for Christmas movies, though? Is anybody here a Christmas Story fan, or are we National Lampoons? Or
that's a good one. The dad in the Christmas Story reminds me of my grandpa, so it's just kind of funny.
Yeah, The Christmas Story is one of my favorite movies.
It's a great movie. It's I don't know if it's unintentionally racist, but it's racist. Fucking fa ra 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 ra. I mean, like that's like the Chinese restaurant is like the best, dude. Yeah. Yeah. No. A fa la 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 la.
I like when they cut the goose's head off. They just like the mom's like, oh, this head doesn't belong.
Dad's like, he's smiling at me.
Hack it off with the cleaver.
They have the shitty neighbors, the Bumpuses, like, you know, and they're 85 dogs. Everybody can relate. I think there's somebody in that movie that everybody can relate to. I don't know. I just like that movie a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
Another good one is Jingle All the Way, because it's so terrible, but it has so many good Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I forgot about that one. That is a good one. Yeah.
Oh, it deserves to be forgotten.
How do we feel about National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation?
I've never seen that, so I don't know. Wow. Yeah.
Since guys, tonight on the pause button, we're.
Oh.
All right. Yeah. All right. Yeah. Adam's favorite movie of all time is Blade Runner 2049.
I thought Adam's favorite movie was the new Star Wars.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. It's fantastic. Everybody go see it. They completely outdone themselves. I wasn't expecting it at all.
You were talking for like 20 minutes before we started recording about how you liked.
Hey, dude, can I tell you?
Milk.
Come on. Let's be honest. Luke Skywalker dies and Rey turns to the dark side. So whatever. Merry fucking Christmas. Oh no, the big weird with the big funky nose and 97 tits and they milk it. Yeah. Big Khazar milkers.
It's got big old titties.
I've got nipples. Craig, can you milk me?
Yeah. So let's get into Krampus. Let's get into Krampus. Yeah.
So
let's talk about Krampus and why Krampus.
That's a good question.
Well, Krampus is more fun than Santa Claus, I think.
More aesthetic too.
Yeah.
Yeah, Santa Claus has type 2 diabetes, and Krampus, kidnaps kids and puts them in a sack and beats the shit out of them. So
or drags them to hell.
Yeah. Or drags
them. And don't forget. Oh yeah, Santa has type 2 diabetes from eating cookies and drinking eggnog for like, God, Coca-Cola. Yeah, eggnog.
Coca-Cola.
Do you guys like eggnog?
Or all those fucking cookies that people leave out for them.
I do.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
I like eggnog for like the first 5 times I have it every year, and then after that it gets really nasty. I don't know why.
Yeah,
agreed. You know what eggnog really is, right? It's elf cum. Just pour it on your back and smack yourself on the ass.
Oh man, I can't wait.
Gross. Yeah. Yeah, totally. Oh yeah, that's the thing.
Gay. Fuck.
So anyway, Krampus, he's a pre-Christian Alpine tradition. Actually, he's like a big furry guy with big old horns and a long tongue, teeth. He's usually kind of like really dark, like black hair. And yeah, he's like evil Santa.
Well, his whole deal is that he's kind of like the bad cop to Santa's good cop, and that he's the lackey that takes care of the dirty ones.
Interesting. So he goes more hardcore than just leaving coal in your shoe or whatever.
He will beat you with sticks, eat you, or drag you to hell.
Now that's pretty metal.
It's very metal. It's very German.
Yeah, is he now? He's German or Austrian?
Seems like kind of an overreaction.
He's Alpine. To call him German or Austrian isn't really, exact, because those are, nation states that arose over the centuries when, the Krampus and, Christmas stuff kind of goes back to, pagan times and whatnot. But, general, Alpine kind of mythology, in the pre-Roman day era, when it was Gallic tribes and whatnot, they still had their folklore, which a lot of people believe Krampus descends from some of that. But he's common to Austria, Bavaria, and Germany, Switzerland, northern Italy, some parts of Slovenia. So basically just, the general Alpine. It doesn't really matter which country, but it's going to change. Like his appearance and the myth behind him will change slightly depending on which specific community you're talking about.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Okay. So he's not just like one culture, one.
Right. And his origins actually, he kind of has a mirror with another figure called Arkta, who was a kind of pagan nature goddess that might have had human sacrifice involved regarding the winter solstice. And so she has kind of a lot of places that have Krampus legends include her. Not really cohorts necessarily, but they kind of do similar functions in similar areas.
What was her name?
I don't know if I'm saying it entirely precisely, but it's a Perkta, I think.
Oh, Frau Perkta.
Yeah, Frau Perkta.
Yeah, she's pretty nasty too, cutting like kids open.
Yeah, or she does it to adults too. If you're a sinner or a naughty child, she basically kidnaps you and cuts your guts or cuts you up.
Wooden scissors have got to hurt way more than regular scissors.
And then, yeah, wooden scissors.
I feel like you can't even cut anything with wooden scissors.
That might be the point.
You're not trying hard enough.
I guess.
Yeah.
When it's your job, you get pretty good at it.
I guess.
But yeah, according to Austrian legend and Bavarian legend, Frau Perkta, when she's done pulling your guts out, she stuffs you and sews you up, so you're a very macabre doll.
That doesn't sound right.
Merry Christmas, children. Yeah. So imagine you're a kid and your parents were naughty, and you wake up on Christmas morning and find zombie corpse dolls under the tree.
Why don't we do this anymore? Like, at what point did these sort of traditions fall by the wayside, and we have like?
I'll give you one guess, Scott.
Diabetes leaves you presents if you get 1906.
Wait, what?
Well, tell me how the Jews evolved.
Oh, I asked one.
Well, medieval times, they kind of prohibited a lot of it.
I said I'll give you one guess.
I don't.
Guess.
I'm sorry.
No, it wasn't the time I was thinking of.
Oh,
no, it's when Christmas became more about getting rid of these Germanic traditions and becoming a commercial commodity instead.
Well, before the commercialized period, you had the everything pre-Christian is evil phase, where church authority in the Middle Ages tried to discourage any kind of festivity or worship or celebration that wasn't focused on Christ or something biblical.
I guess. But I mean, there's so many Christmas traditions that we don't use anymore or don't have anymore. I mean, besides Krampus, let's talk about Krampus. They even have a Krampus festival. Still, yes, Krampusnacht. It's
Krampusnacht. Or just
How does it compare to Kristallnacht?
Yeah, I wondered that too, if there was a connection. Krampusnacht, Kristallnacht.
Was Krampus anti-Semitic?
I would have to think so. He's from Bavaria.
And don't forget,
True, and he doesn't
have
like naughty
Krampuslauf.
people.
Krampuslauf is the parade too. So
yeah, the running of the bulls. But
yeah, can you imagine these guys really drunk on Bavarian beer?
Isn't that basically running?
Yeah, you're right, Scott. Yeah.
Was that Scott?
Oh, I was just asking, isn't that basically running of the bulls anyways? A bunch of drunk assholes in costume, like.
Yeah. Well, that you might see someone get gored. I don't really think in Krampus they gore people, but that might be a nice touch.
Oh, well, speaking of that, wasn't there a problem in was it Austria, one of the Austrian cities? They had the Krampus festival and they were really worried about it because the poor refugees.
Yeah, in Salzburg. Yeah, in Salzburg they had a whole controversy because they were worried that the Krampus figure was insensitive to refugees, since Muslim traditions from Syria and Afghanistan don't have any, devilish-looking goat creatures that punish bad children. So, Krampus is racist.
Oh, vey.
Krampus is racist.
So, do we know much about, is it just kind of a party then? People hanging out with costumes?
It's kind of a festival. It's almost like if you imagine, running of the bulls and Halloween and Oktoberfest combined, it's kind of like that. The participants, they're generally, men, and also if you're a bystander at this thing, you're kind of putting yourself in harm's way. So the people will don their costumes kind of like, in the ancient pagan times when they would wear animal skins. And so they dress up like Krampus, and they essentially mob around town, whipping people with bundles of beach sticks and, whipping them on the thighs and on the hips, places where it's not really going to do any damage. It's just kind of annoy you and, sting. And they just kind of run around. They run around causing mayhem. They fight each other, they'll wrestle each other in the streets. It sounds
like a lot of fun,
actually. Have a grand old time.
That sounds pretty cool, actually.
Oh yeah, unless you're getting whipped by a drunk Bavarian with beach sticks.
That's why
exactly.
you are the drunk Bavarian with beach sticks.
Well, I don't. Fair enough.
So I mean, that's modern day Krampus stuff, right? That Krampuslauf or whatever, they still do that. I remember reading that earlier in the early 1900s. I believe it was right after the 1923 election. They prohibited the Krampus, all the Krampus stuff, and even distributed later on. They distributed pamphlets, saying Krampus is an evil man, like anti-Krampus propaganda.
And that was in Austria, right?
Oh, the Austrian Christian Socialist Party, where they condemned it as a communist thing.
That's weird.
Yeah, if you celebrate Krampus Nacht, you're a communist.
How does that work exactly when it's a tradition that's hundreds of years old?
If I had to guess, I would say because Krampus punishes people that are naughty and sinful, and communists kind of have that whole, their own kind of morality system where, greed and excess and personal property is all very sinful. So, go whip those mean old capitalists and their private property with bundles of sticks. That's what I would guess.
That just seems like such a stretch, though,
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's propaganda.
Was it effective?
Honestly, I don't think so, considering how popular it remains.
Yeah, he came back.
Yeah, it's still around.
The Krampus thing came back. There's public demand for it. Is the late 50s is when it started back up.
Well, yeah, there were postcards, Christmas cards and stuff that featured him. Obviously, remained fashionable or semi-tasteful.
So he's kind of a gag character at that point.
Yeah, I'd say he's been kind of almost made a little bit cartoony in a sense, in that respect.
Well, he doesn't. It seems like even from the beginning, he wasn't like a terribly important, figure in any kind of mythology, except to to scare children.
Well, medieval sources and modern scholars, a lot of them, and I think the Brothers Grimm speculated on this too. They believe that Krampus is actually descended from the horned god figure from Celtic myth, and that a lot of the associations with devilry and demons come from the fact that in the early Middle Ages, remnants of any cult of that deity would be kind of focused on like hedge witches or kind of disreputable women or people of society.
Well, I mean, Krampus isn't exactly all bad though. I mean, he's still buddies with Santa, right?
Well, yeah, he's kind of an anti-hero figure in a sense. I mean, he
started off. He kind of started off as what's his name there, Zwarte Piet, in Holland. He was kind of like the sidekick there. I think he was kind of I would kind of liken him to the yang to Santa's yin. Say that again. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's a really good comparison. Oh, I said that's a good comparison because they're kind of the good side and the bad side.
Saint Nick brings the presents and Krampus brings the pain.
So that makes me wonder.
Yeah, like good cop, bad cop kind of thing. Yeah.
Are there other Santa parallels? 'Cause there's a lot of old winter holiday type characters that are really violent or about punishment.
Krampus himself is just in terms of the linear mythology, he's the son of Hel from Norse mythology, and she's the queen of the underworld. She's Loki's daughter with the giantess Angerboda, and she Niflheim, where she rules, is a frozen a place of eternal winter, more or less. And the non-heroic, non-glorious dead end up in Niflheim. So a lot of people that, would be, probably guilty of sin or, something that would cause Krampus to come down on them. So in a way, you could almost see it like Krampus falls into the role that he has due to his mythological origins, just kind of, the son of the goddess of the underworld.
Oh, okay.
Which, could also help explain why one of his, attributes is that he drags children to the underworld to be punished. Because, that's where his mom
What's the deal with his feet? He's got one cloven hoof and one human foot. What is that supposed to represent?
I'm not sure, because his form would almost, at first glance appear to be, the striking of a satyr from, Hellenic mythology, the body of a goat and a man kind of commingled. But then, Krampus is more bestial than that, and he almost has some kind of lupine characteristics in terms of the claws and fangs and such. But yeah, the one human foot, I'm not really sure what that would represent or where it would come into play. It could just be, a fixture of imagination meant to be grotesque.
Yeah, maybe it's just
Make it hard to buy a pair of shoes,
uglier
that's for sure.
And grosser. Did the horned god from Celtic mythology, did he have like hooves too?
Saturnos is the generally accepted name for a lot of that. Wiccans might disagree, but I don't care what they think. He is depicted in a variety of ways. Generally, his body is entirely that of a man, with the head of a stag. But there are a lot of depictions, especially from the Alpine regions, which is relevant because Krampus is an Alpine figure, where he has a human body, but a lot like a satyr. From the knee down, he has the legs of a deer, and he still has the stag head, or he has the horns of a stag on a human head.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, that to me strengthens the relationship between it generally being an Alpine remnant of Celtic mythology.
Pretty cool to see all this stuff like commingles and evolves together.
Yeah, it's just like the people that lived there. I mean, you had the native, the Gallic Celtic tribes, the Helvetii and all those guys, and you had the subsequent waves of Roman settlement and Germanic migration. So it's it kind of mirrors the people's development in a way.
From being a son of a giantess, is that right?
Yeah. Loki from Norse mythology. He fathered 3 children with the giantess Angerboda. The firstborn was Fenrir, Fenris the wolf. The second was Jormungand, the world serpent, and the third was Hel, the half living, half dead queen of the underworld.
Wow, those are important figures.
Yes, they are. All three are closely associated with the apocalypse and their mythology.
Oh, his grandson didn't quite get as famous.
No, he did not.
So another parent, one of the traditions with this is they would talk about him year round. Like parents would scare the children with stories about Krampus to keep them from being too naughty all year round, and they put up some gold painted birch sticks. Just to hang them on the wall all year.
Well, yeah, the tradition was that Krampus, when he came, if he left you gold birch sticks, it meant you were a good child. You were spared his wrath. He found you to be satisfactory. If you were left with silver beech sticks, that meant you were a naughty child. And so the mounting of golden beech sticks was kind of a reminder that remember what Krampus gives you if you're good. You want to be good for Krampus, don't you? Because, all the horrible things that are associated with children who aren't good, that Krampus doesn't approve of.
Yeah, if you're bad, Krampus is going to put you in a sack and take you to hell.
Yeah,
I wonder how effective that is.
Well, I mean, not just hell. I mean, because it's the Alps, there are a lot of caves and, whatnot. A lot of the stories, especially from Western Austria and southern Bavaria, the real mountainous parts, it talks about how he'll put kids in a wicker basket or in a sack, and he'll drag them off to a cave and eat them alive, and their screams echo down the mountainside, and the whole village can hear it. So it's pretty morbid stuff.
So there's kind of a general character that he's this guy and he does these things, right? We kind of covered that. Is there any particular specific narrative myths about him, like an origin story or sort of a one legend that is passed on generally has the same events in it? So
you mean in a folklore sense rather than a mythological sense, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know about an origin story per se, because a lot of, the medieval parishes, because the Alpine is, kind of a remote region by nature, it's very mountainous, it's very prone to severe weather. So a lot of, and especially in the Middle Ages, a lot of the priests had a lot of authority over, different aspects of, their specific villages and whatnot. So you had different villages developing different perceptions of the figure simultaneously. But a common, origin sort would be that he's mounted in chains and bells. He has them all over his body that rattle constantly. So, if you hear the rattling of bells and chains at night, it's Krampus. The story behind that is that he's, you know, an unclean spirit. He's a demon that torments people, torments men around the time of, you know, Christmas, you know, a day sacred to the Catholic Church. And because of this, a saint, and generally it's in the story, it's Saint Nicholas for obvious reasons, he goes and he binds Krampus in chains because, you know, he has the authority and power of God behind him when he's condemning this demonic figure. And essentially, it's also kind of a gesture of power to the Alpine pagan traditions, basically saying, oh, this new religion is putting your Christmas, your winter solstice mischief guy, and he's putting him in chains. You know, he's subduing his bestial behavior. You know, the Lord is conquering the devil.
I see. Okay, but that's like a medieval Christian myth, though.
Yeah. Before that, it's really hairy and a lot of pure speculation.
Oh, that's too bad. So much history was lost.
Well, I mean, the Celts weren't the kind of people that were taken to writing stuff down to begin with.
None of those black cultures really wrote anything.
Yeah, I
down,
guess
did
that's
they?
true.
Oh wait, the Irish are white. Oh my God. Never mind.
We didn't hear any of that.
Yeah, I could.
God damn it. My internet says it's working and it's not working. Right. Okay, that's great.
Yeah, your internet's lying to us. You have ruralite internet and
urbanite.
I hate to say it, but urbanite
internet is
Krampus is going to come.
Urbanite internet is way superior.
Internet.
What I don't understand is like some nights everything works fucking perfectly and we don't have problems, you know, like, and then other nights like it does. It's like, I don't know, is there like some sort of is it Krampus? Yeah, it's Krampus.
Krampus is actually in the wires. Krampus is in the wires fucking them up.
You sure it's not the Yule lads? Those guys do annoying things, not like
the Yule lads are really.
Let's talk about those.
Yeah, let's finish up Krampus.
I want to wrap up Krampus first.
You got there's a lot. I mean, there's not a whole lot more to Krampus other than like, you know, you want to be careful. You don't want to get beaten and taken away in the bag. So you want to be good. You know, you want to be a good kid or a good person or whatever. And definitely don't go out in the streets in Germany on the 5th of December. Right?
If you're a child in Germany, just watch yourself in general. Like every story for kids out of that place is terrifying.
It's like you're gonna die.
Well, that's
don't go in the woods.
Idea.
A witch in a candy house will eat you.
Well, that's probably a good idea now, anyway. Because
right? Yeah, that's the other thing. We did actually when I did the current year tonight. We had a Krampus. Skit, and I was looking for it, and I couldn't find it before the show. It was pretty funny. About the Muslims and Krampus, about how the Muslims want Krampus to wear a hijab because he's half goat, and you don't want the Muslims. So I mean, like, that's the other thing.
That's the problem with all the Muslims.
It was very sexy time. We take sexy time with the goat over here. Yes, Ahmed, bring goat over here. Bring the goat. Get the beach sticks. Fuck him. Bring him over here. Yes, but.
There are some Saudi princes.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. That those, they're subhuman. Yeah. Anyway, so let's finish up with Krampus. You know, they have Krampus festivals in the United States.
How
now.
long?
There's a big one in Philadelphia. It's Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania country. I think the biggest ones are in Philadelphia, New York, Los Angeles, and strangely enough, there's one in Orlando. I almost feel like that's just an excuse for the Orlando, like the
I was going to say it's a lot of gay. It's got to be a lot of gay guys.
Hey, Krampus.
That's right.
I've been a naughty boy this Christmas.
So. I can't imagine. I mean, like, you guys seen the Krampus carton, the greeting cards that they've been. We were talking about that a little bit ago. The greeting cards about Krampus. Some of them were, most of them were, like being mean to kids and whatever. But some of them, these pictures of Krampus chasing large-breasted Bavarian women. Look at these pictures. He liked. He was Krampus is a boob guy. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's one where the woman's playing like chess or something, and he's like basically staring at her cleavage, and his facial expression is like, "Hot damn!"
like in the old cartoon, where their eyes would stretch out like 5 feet.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then during these celebrations, of course, the costumes come out, right? You got Krampus, St. Nicholas, you got the Woodsman. What else do we have for these funky costumes here?
The bells. I was going to say the bells are interesting because bells are so iconic to Christmas, especially Santa. You know, Santa's sleigh and it's silver bells and all that shit. And Krampus is just decked out in bells. I mean, one of the folklore things is, you know, if it's Christmas time and you're outside alone at night, you hear bells,
better run.
You're in trouble.
You get beaten with a bunch of beach sticks.
Before I forget, though, related to Krampus and the bells, the origins of the Krampus like festival, you know, dressing up and running around town like that, it actually goes back to the pagan stuff again. But it was because a lot of people think when they think of, you know, the underworld and ghosts, they think of Halloween. They think of that time of year. But for a lot of, you know, Germanic and Celtic societies when they were still pagan, that, you know, tradition extended into the winter because you think about it, winter is the time of death. There's less sunlight, the crops, you know, don't grow, everything's cold, it's dark. It's the time of death. So you kind of have these traditions that arise that are focused on that. And so you had people that, you know, the idea was that the ghosts were all around you, a lot like Halloween. So you had people that would dress in, you know, animal skins and, you know, other costumes and such, you know, and they would essentially do, you know, ceremonies to ward off bad spirits, to ward off ghosts. And one of them recorded, even by the Romans, was that they would use bells. They would use little brass bells and they would ring them at the entrances of, you know, houses and buildings to ward off spirits.
So that's where the bells come in. That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think it's pretty interesting that, you know, they've kind of carried through time and that now, you know, Santa Claus has them all over the place, especially given Santa Claus's, you know, connotations to the wild hunt, Odin and all, you know, Father Winter and such.
Oh, we'll have to get into that too later.
Yeah, for sure. That was pretty much what I had on Krampus, though.
No, not really. That pretty much covers it. I mean, he's, you know, scary for the kids. Takes them away and beats them with a stick if you're bad. I think that nowadays a lot more kids around here would be technically visited by Krampus than Santa Claus. You know,
I don't think there are any millennials that should be visited by Santa Claus.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
kids are.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, kids, millennial. I mean, well, a lot of what you call like these younger kids that have shitty millennial parents. You know them, and then their parents. Their parents get to be visited by you know, by Krampus too.
Well, yeah, actually that movie that came out a couple of years ago, I think that was basically the plot where like the kid is sad that his family is shitty and so he wishes that like they wouldn't have a nice Christmas and so
yeah, the Krampus movie? Yeah, that was really kind of a fucked up movie, yeah.
Yeah, not to spoil it for anyone, but it's very
it's a Krampus movie, basically.
It's not a traditional
movie. Who cares if it gets spoiled? It's well, I don't know. I don't want people bitching in the comments. Never.
Even though it's 2 years old.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen that before.
We don't ever really see that.
Don't say that word. You just did it.
Sandy Hook.
Damn it.
Sandy
Damn
Hook
it.
was a hoax.
Oh no. Oh,
Thanks, Zev.
great.
This is true.
We'll also make our comment numbers look better.
This is true.
I just wanted to test the theory.
You know, I don't know. I don't want to get into that, but yeah, the last week's comments were great. Wow. The SHIDF is real, folks. It is real. Yeah. So, and like Krampus is real, and Santa. Don't forget, you know, all these other winter, Christmas, you know, Yuletide monsters. Do we want to do those first? Are we going to start getting into those? Because there's quite a few. And there's quite a few.
Yeah.
We've got, you want to talk about Santa?
Well, let's talk about Santa. I mean, he's kind of the obvious next one.
Well, Santa's kind of
let's save Santa for last. We'll save Santa for last. And we'll do all the monsters first, yeah. So there's...
All right.
Yeah, one of my favorites is... and I don't speak Welsh, so if our one Welsh listener, if I fuck this up, I'm sorry. But Mari Lwyd is the Christmas zombie horse. This is super weird. And yeah, now wait, it gets better. Not only is it a skeletal horse, not only is it Welsh, which is weird enough. Have you guys ever seen Welsh street signs? The Welsh language is absolutely weird, and we need right. Yeah, let me just basically put your face on the keyboard and go back and forth with your cheeks, and you'll come up with a Welsh word. But
there are so many consonants.
I was gonna say my microphone was being shitty, and you mentioned Sandy Hook. So We were talking about this the other day, how we could run some like A/B test on the Sandy Hook shit. I think we're all convinced that the Sandy Hook Internet Defense Force is real. So basically what we're going to try is this episode, we talked about it for, a couple minutes, and we're going to see if anyone mentions it in the comments. And then next week, we are not going to mention Sandy Hook at all, but we want you guys to talk about it in the comments. So I think that there's an algorithm that pops up whenever the phrase Sandy Hook is online, and these people start spamming the comments with like, oh, my cousin died and blah, 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 and how dare you, and you conspiracy nerds need to blah.
Well, but the thing is with that is,
in
the show last week, all I said was that we were going to read off, it literally was like 2 sentences, and I believe that that's how it started. So
Right. But the problem was that somebody...
Oh, okay.
Someone mentioned it as a joke.
Yeah, no, I see.
And then
I remember
all
this,
the shills showed up. So if you're a fan of the show, please, for the love of God, make a note of this, but do not mention it in the comments at all this week whatsoever. Don't say Sandy Hook. Don't say Adam Lanza. Don't say anything. And then next week, we're not going to mention it, and just go crazy in the comments. Just start talking about how,
right,
Adam Lanza did it or didn't do it.
Right.
Pretend the entire show topic was Sandy Hook.
Pretend we did. Yeah, pretend we read Sandy Hook. I really want to see. I know this is a big distraction from Krampus, but I really, really want to see
if it's
what their algorithm is.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to know if it's like audio-based or text-based.
I think it's a text crawler.
That's interesting.
Because that's so
all right,
easy.
So it's a text crawler, and then somehow they go back and listen to see what we had to say. I mean, I don't know.
No, they don't need to. They just need to see it mentioned, and then they can go in
Yeah,
and
a lot
post
of
comments,
it.
right?
All right. So back to Marie-Louise and the skeletal, the zombie horse. Now here's the best part about it. Okay, so if you live in Wales, you got to get your verbal IQ up, because the only way that you can get rid of this thing is you have to beat the horse in basically in a battle of rhymes. You got to basically freestyle this horse away from you. Otherwise, you're gonna get it's gonna get you. You basically have to,
Is it like that horse from Berserk?
It's the one from 8 Mile. It's the one from 8 Mile. Yeah, no. So here's the thing. Is it's a horse skull on. It's all decked out with bells and ribbons, right? And there's your bells again, Zev. So he goes through neighborhoods, and they challenge you for drinks. So basically, you got to out rap. It's poetry, but it's rap. Let's be honest. You got to out rap this horse on a stick. Now there's a lot of insults, and they're called Punko battles, a PWNCO. So there's a lot of poonage going on. I don't like that. Yeah, it's Wales, dude. What do you want? It's fucking Wales. Okay.
They're weird
Some
people.
drunk Welsh guy probably thought of this, and everyone started laughing so hard in Wales, the whole country. And then they just
yes. Our greatest tradition is to rap battle a horse head on a stick. Yeah, it's you got. The thing is you got to. This is preposterous.
This is
it's yeah. I don't know. But this is a real thing that they do. It's a hobby horse, basically. With the person on it with a sheet over them. Let me read you a little bit of T.S. Eliot. Marilwyb.
I gotta see this guy.
Okay, and T.S. Eliot. Oh no, I'm sorry, Vernon Watkins. It's just annotated by T.S. Eliot. Vernon Watkins is a Welsh poet. It's an interesting name. It's not doesn't sound very Welsh. It's called The Ballad of the Marie-Louise. Marie-Louise, horse of frost, star horse, and white horse of the sea, is carried to us. The dead return. Those exiles carry her, they who seem holy and have put on corruption, they who seem corrupt and have put on holiness. They strain against the door. They strain towards the fire which fosters and warms the living. All right, that didn't rhyme at all, so I'm pretty sure he lost the rap battle with this.
If I were a horse and I rap battling someone,
Right.
that's what they showed up with, I'd be pissed off.
Yeah.
It's like, that's as good as you can get. Like, really?
I see one picture of this thing that has like a sheet over it that
Yep,
looks like a
yep.
bridal veil.
Yep, it's
So
just
maybe he's just looking for his husband.
My first thought when I saw it was, it looks like something a NEAT would have in an anime.
well, I mean, it's a Christmas.
His girlfriend.
It's a Christmas tradition in Wales, guys. All right, this skeletal horse goes around rap battling people.
I want one
Waifu,
now.
skeletal horse, waifu pillows, when?
They put like a bell in its eye socket.
Yeah, it is kind of creepy. So there's that's Mari Lud, or however the frig you say it. Well, the thing is it rises. And it's scary, right? And the other thing is it's trying to get into your house. So you have to out wrap it to keep it out of your house. So I don't know. He's coming, and the horse is there to steal your drinks. In Wales, I mean, I guess they get drunk a lot in Wales. I don't know. I don't know many Welsh. Too bad Greyfield's not around anymore to help us out with that.
Wait, who's officiating? Who's officiating this rap battle? I don't think horses.
I have
are very
no
good
idea. I
rapping.
mean,
You know, it might be like he just wants you to put up like a good fight, and he just really wants to see someone try. You know, he's like
Right.
wants to encourage people. You know,
Who was officiating in Devil Went Down to Georgia?
You know, I question that because I always thought the Devil's part was a lot better than Johnny's.
I disagree as well. I
did.
thought Johnny did really
I
well. And it has
disagree
nothing to do
with
with
it.
just me being Johnny. So
Johnny's is catchy, but the Devil's just like shreds.
He doesn't really. It's atonal. Whatever.
you
You're
know
right, Tom.
what is interesting is in the Pick of Destiny. I think it's funny that they actually like get blown the fuck out and they're duel with the devil, and like it's only by like sheer luck that they don't get dragged to hell.
the one thing that Jack Black ever
I thought
did
that was a
actually
nice
liked.
touch.
No, the Pick of Destiny's good. Yeah, no,
The Pick of Destiny.
we are definitely
Anyway, we're
halfway
not
to
the pause
pause
button.
So other Mary Louise, yeah. So there's that.
Mary Louise.
I believe Adam, you mentioned earlier, or Zev, you did Perchta, Frau Perchta. Yeah,
Frau
she
Perchta.
does good and bad, right? She rewards the hardworking and generous people and punishes greedy and slovenly.
She's basically a witch, kind of. And she had through the solstice, kind of. I think it's like the 12 days of Christmas. You know, the traditional December 25th through January 6th. She travels around. She's the chick that if you're a bad person, she cuts you open with wooden scissors and replaces your organs with garbage and sawdust and then sews you back up. So she does that to you if you're bad, but if you're good, she's basically like a kindly grandmother. So she goes into a house with 2 kids. One of them's a little shit that murders cats. She's going to cut that one open and fill him with sawdust. And if the other one's a little saintly kid saying his prayers every night, she'll leave him a shiny. So she's a very polarizing figure.
That's true. And she is actually the root of the tradition of having goose for Christmas in a lot of places. Yes, because she is often depicted as having a goose foot. So, and then again, of course, there's the belief that that goose fat enables witches to fly. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. That's very interesting. She also has an Italian parallel for you, Johnny. La Befana. I think I'm saying that right. She's pretty much the Italian version of Frau Perchta.
29%, guys. Okay.
Le 29%.
Yeah. Well, La Befana is also
I'm just saying.
La Befana is Italian, and
But
it's also in Russia. It's similar. No, in Russia is also
Does she
babushka.
do the same thing?
They basically fly around and on a broomstick it's in January. It's not even. It's a little after Christmas. And they take off and go hang out with the 3 kings who are seeking the Christ child.
Do you mean Baba Yaga? Or
I believe,
Babushka's grandmother,
Yes.
isn't it?
But these, all 3 of these are.
Baba Yaga?
Well, yeah. Go ahead talk about
Yeah.
Baba Yaga there for a second.
Baba Yaga is a figure from Russian folklore. She's not really necessarily Christmas related per se. Like she doesn't have any direct connotations that I know of to the holiday, but she's just kind of regarded as a witch active in winter, and a lot like Frau Perchta, she's kind of an unwilling giver in that she's kind of ambivalent and generally vaguely hostile. But if you kind of do a task for her, if you outsmart her, then she'll give you a magical trinket or something. But yeah, like I said, she's generally associated with wintertime, and it's suspected that she's distantly correlated to the Slavic and Baltic winter and death goddess, who has several different names in the different languages. But she has a lot of different names, but they're all generally something related with the letter M, like Manziter, Manan. It varies on which country because their languages vary. But she, like Frau Perkta, kind of travels the countryside, doing good things for good people, albeit kind of begrudgingly, and doing bad things to bad people.
Probably enjoys the bad things part.
Yeah, and she's really weird. Like, she has her house is a hut with no windows or doors, and it stands on like giant chicken legs, and it's constantly rotating. And to get it to stop so that you can talk to her, you have to know the magic words to get it to stop. And there's like burning human skulls mounted on posts all around her house.
Isn't it from Howl's Moving Castle?
I don't know what that is.
I think you're just rehashing an anime plot. I don't think that's true.
I can promise you I have never seen a full
Castle.
episode of an anime in my life.
Okay.
Except Pokemon, but I don't think that counts.
Okay. I'll take your word for it.
I'm not Atlantic Centurion, okay.
Nerd.
Nah, then there's some other the ghoulish winter figures. There's like an anti-Santa figure from the Alsace-Lorraine region in France, which is near the border with Germany. So this is kind of near the Alps, so it's almost vaguely correlated to Krampus. But Hans Trapp is an anti-Santa, and he kind of travels around punishing, again, bad children in Alsace-Lorraine. So, eastern France and like southwestern Germany. But supposedly, in real life, he was a rich, greedy man who worshipped Satan and was excommunicated for, all these and such. But he was exiled into the forest, and to sustain himself, he essentially he cannibalized children. He would dress up as a scarecrow with straw coming out of his clothing, and he would dress like a scarecrow. So again, this is almost like kind of a Halloween thing, except it's Christmas time. And so he travels around the woods, essentially haunting and eating bad kids that are sinful or that disobey their parents. But according to the legend, he was he captured a boy that he was going to eat. But he was struck by lightning and died because, God was tired of him, doing this around Christmas time, so he strikes him down. But so he kind of persisted in the legend, and so before Christmas, he essentially haunts bad children dressed as a scarecrow to scare them into good behavior. He's dead. He's killed a long time ago by God himself, but he still haunts bad kids so that they'll, respect their parents and they won't be so
that's
greedy.
Good. He's teaching him a lesson.
That's a really,
it's always
common thing in all these
shitty kids get
Christmas like entities.
Well, German, it's a German thing too. A lot of like figures from Germany or the Alpine regions, they're all very, very grim. It's like, it's not, if you're a bad kid, you'll be unlucky or something bad will happen to you, like that you can recover from. It's like, if you're a bad kid, something will literally eat your flesh. Some creepy scarecrow.
Hey, did you guys see this Straggly? It's one of the Frau Perkta's friends. She always comes around with a bunch of different demons. This one likes to rip. They throw the kids in the air and rip them to pieces. It's like it kind of looks like Krampus, except that it is basically like a Bigfoot with horns. So without the cloven hoofs. Yep. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Is that where the wild things are?
I don't know, man. It could be, yeah. Where the wild things are is
it could be
those monsters.
Where is that story from? Who wrote that version?
Oh, it was a Jew.
That book kind of creeped me out as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, of course. That's why.
Then you've got the exactly.
Maurice
I didn't want to do it, but yeah. Then you've got the Tomten, which is like a David the Gnome looking dude, except the gigantic beard. But this one is from Scandinavia. The Tomten is, he's fine as long as you don't piss him off. He lives in the burial mounds amongst the dead, and he's cool as long as, like I said, you don't piss him off. He's known for driving people insane biting them. And by the way, his bites are poisonous. So you better leave him out to gift of food. Yeah.
Oh,
He's a very polarizing figure. We have that friend in Norway. He was telling me about the tomte, and they essentially they're kind of like a guardian spirit for the household. So if like it lives in the barrel or the dead or in the ground or whatever, but it's very protective of the house or the land or whatever. So in the sense that it's a familial spirit or household spirit or entity, the idea is that they leave out. Generally, the tradition is porridge of some kind, but other sorts of treats and delicacies for him to munch on, just as kind of an offering of, hey, don't mess with us. We appreciate you being our households. Guardian.
Yeah, they'll curse you. They play tricks on you and drive you nuts, or they bite you and poison you to death. It's kind of freaky there. This little look at this cute little gnome. He's coming. Oh, he bit me. Now I'm dead. Oh, great. Should have left him porridge. Yeah, gnomes are, especially the really underpants. Like in general. But that's a whole different thing. Yeah. Huh?
Oh, that's old.
Speaking of references and segues, let's segue into the break. We have a Christmas song from our buddy.
It is.
You are close, Scott. You're close. You're close. He's a good. Yeah. I mean, as close friends as we are with the Kinks, it's not. But this is. Is this literally called the Christmas song?
We go way back.
Or is it called King George? Is it? I can't really tell by the thumbnail that you posted there, Scott. Okay.
I don't. I'm not sure. I think it's called.
You're doing that thing again. No, we're gonna play it. We're gonna play it. That's cool.
No, King George.
That's cool. I like it. That's
week.
Okay. So yes, this is Patty Tarleton and the Christmas song, and we'll be back.
All right, it's time for the Christmas song. Santa's upgraded to a Challenger. He's cleaning up our streets this Christmas Eve. Hey, you might say there's no such thing as free speech, but if you're left-wing, who cares what you believe? Now the Yuletide is upon us, and our country's polarized. Even Santa's sick of commies, and this year Saint Nick is getting mobilized. He departed from the North Pole and made his way to southern skies. Parked that sleigh in a police impoundment lot and got himself one killer ride. And oh, how he rode in style, plowing trannies in the street. Boom, boom. Got a call from Brother Cantwell and did an interview while driving with his feet. Blocking roads in downtown Richmond. Some dindus howled, we was kangs. He hit the gas and plowed right through him and yelled, "Don't say I never brought you anything." And oh, how the people marveled when that muscle car took flight. Darting straight across the ocean for Nigeria in the dead of night. He hovered o'er the slums of Lagos toward the roof of a compound. Swooped down to scoop up Brother Anglin and tossed bananas to the crowd down on the ground. Then the pair flew off to London, but they were shot down over France, landing on a pagan homestead belonging to the man who killed Euronymous. He cried out, "Is that you, Odin?" And Santa laughed and said, "Oh, please. Hey, what more can you really expect from a 40-year-old man that still plays RPGs?" Anglin said, "Let's head to Cali, deliver to our West Coast goys." "Superb idea," shouted Santa, there's someone there I want to give a special toy. They found her screaming in a town square, outside an anarchist bookstore. Santa yelled, "Hey, Miss Falarka," then rammed her ass into a pretty mound of gore. Then on the visit, Richard Spencer. Santa gave a speech for NPI. Wished Jared Taylor a White Christmas, which of course made all the spurgs and autists cry. Santa's not pro-white, they shouted. Well, that must mean he's a Jew. Well, I guess every movement has them. Hey, even evil racists have our retards too. They had just one more stop before morning, when then two figures from afar. It was Miss Southern and Miss McCarthy, sporting pistols, and they tried to jack the car. Let us girls deliver presents. Us chicks can drive as good as you. Santa obliged, saying hop in, and like cackling skanky hyenas off they flew. But Santa was smart and gave directions. He guided the girls along the way. Landing on a roof in Virginia, he told the girls to hop on down the chimney. Lauren moaned, "This seems fishy," but down they slided anyway. Rolling out into the fireplace in a living room, and noticed something strange. Afrocentric propaganda. Black power fists sewn in the drapes. Then out came Vice Mayor Bellamy, and said, "If you girls moan, you know that it ain't rape." Ha ha ha. Santa's upgraded to a Challenger. He's cleaning up our streets this Christmas Eve. Hey, you may say there's no such thing as free speech, but if you're left-wing, who cares what you believe? Yeah.
All right, everybody, we're back. This is still the Paranormies present the Ahnenerbe Hour. I'm still Johnny Monoxide with Scott, Zev, and Adam. We're talking about Krampus and Christmas and Sinterklaas and horses with wedding veils and whales and other Christmas freaking weird things. Like the poisonous gnomes that you don't feed them will bite you, kill you. All right. Man. Was it Scott? No, Adam. I believe you mentioned earlier they are the, was it Grilla and the Yule lads. Yeah.
Yeah, Grilla's kids, the Yule lads.
They're not really, they're not really like.
So these guys are kind of funny.
Say, but,
yeah, I think they're just kind of silly. They probably where like Christmas elves come from. It's an Icelandic tradition. They have their little folklore about them, and they a lot like other sort of winter solstice monsters. They will either reward or punish children, and there's I believe there's
13.
Like
there's 13 of them.
12 or
it's
13.
the 13 nights.
13.
Like they take turns like visiting them the 13 nights before Christmas.
And so the farther back you go, wild the descriptions of them can be, where sometimes they're just kind of pranksters, sometimes they're like, they'll kill you and eat you. Pretty common thing. But in a more modern context, they sort of crystallize around these like little prankster guys who they just do like silly stuff. Like they have funny names too, like really here. So the first one that shows up, what he does is he comes and he like annoys your sheep. But he has peg legs, so it's like difficult for him to do. He's like pegging around, trying to find sheep to annoy, pretty much. He's I'm not even gonna try to say the Icelandic names, but the English translation is the sheepcoat clod. And so the next one that comes is he hides in gullies, where he waits to sneak into the cowshed and like take the milk from it. So
The Luke Skywalker thing again.
yeah. But yeah, his name is Gollygawk. And then one guy who's a manlet, he's like a very, very short, one of these little elves, and he steals pans so he can eat whatever's left on him. Not, like I said, it's not very threatening. That's pretty much the kind of things they do. They'll like steal like your pots and pans or your spoons,
spoon liquor, bowl liquor, drinks. Pot scraper, stubby.
Yeah.
My question.
Door slammer. Who just slams
Skier gobbler. He eats Skier yogurt. Apparently, it's a name brand. Sausage swiper.
He sounds like just like a. He sounds like a.
My question is: Are all trolls this violently autistic, or is it just these ones? Are they this autistic?
The names get better. There's sausage swiper, window peeper. I mean, he watches you through the windows. Doorway sniffer.
These guys just sound they sound like a bad college roommate who just like you really just can't wait to move into a new apartment. Like this guy uses your towel user. Wet.
I mean, like these guys, their names are like doorway sniffer. He uses his incredibly large nose to sniff through doors to find bread. Candle stealer. I wonder what he does. Steals candles, leaving the children in the dark. And then my favorite. Is there one that
cooks bacon in the pan and like doesn't clean out the bacon?
And then my favorite is meat hook. Meat hook.
Like
so, yeah. Well, they remind me of I remember when we were in high school. We made a joke about the Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. We were trying to name them off. It's like happy, dopey, sleepy, lefty, ice pick, sleazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it sounds kind of like them. They're like, these guys are like the
one of them like gets your Netflix password and like uses it without asking.
No, what's the
One of them. There's door closer or door slammer, and then there's like door leaves slightly opener and like lets a draft in, and he like does it all the time.
Hot water.
These are really shitty monsters. I mean,
flushes the toilet while you take a shower.
Yeah, because apparently the mom is scarier. The mom is scarier.
Oh yeah.
Well, the thing is that
the mom is an ogress who eats children that don't obey their parents.
Right. That's.
Yeah, she had 3 different husbands and 72 children, and I guess all of them were kind of like little autistic mischief trolls. But I for some reason, those 12 or 13 are separate for some reason. They also live with
the Yule Cat is great. I wanted to save him, area. But no, it's okay. Yola Kurtunen.
Oh, sorry.
No, I don't.
I think
is it? Well, I don't know. According to the internet pronunciation bot, the Yule Cat is a giant black cat who eats people on Christmas. That's pretty. Oh, only lazy people. Okay.
Lazy people. Specifically lazy people. I think it prefers that's its whole. Myth and folk tale is that
the reason what he eats you for is he eats you for not updating your winter wardrobe. So if you're not wearing new clothes, if you don't have any new clothes, he's gonna eat you. So what if you have shitty?
What does he do with ungrateful people?
Don't get me started on ungrateful. I don't. Like the thing about but not only does he not just eat the people, he also not only does he eat the people, he also eats your food. So if you haven't received new clothes, this cat's gonna eat you and eat all your food. Yeah, nice.
Wow,
nice.
Bad roommate.
Yeah, that takes catty to a whole new level.
Is there a Christmas troll that updates Facebook's layout without asking you? Because that's
called Zuckerberg.
No, those are called
dude. The stories about this cat, like way back in the day, the stories would scare kids so much that they actually made it illegal to tell the stories to kids about the Yule Cat. Iceland's a weird place in general.
This is the same country. This is the same country that has legal protection for house
fairies are real, right, Scott? That's right.
Yeah, they are.
No, I don't. The thing is, though, so Jólakötturinn or whatever his name is, looks like a normal cat except he's giant. He's got claws about the size of a snowmobile. That's how big he is. Yeah. Usually in the paintings or the drawings of him, he's usually pretty emaciated because apparently in Iceland they never forget to update their wardrobe. So he's probably gone a few years without a decent meal. I don't know. It's a weird looking cat. He's associated with the other mythical animals like the Yule goat, which apparently the Yule goat doesn't live in Germany anymore because now there's all those Arabs.
Yeah.
Or
Right.
it does, but it lives in abroad.
That's where all the satyrs come from.
Yeah, that's Krampus's origin right there. Turks and Yule goats.
Wow. Oh man, I forgot. There's a Harry Potter reference.
Oh.
Right.
Oh God.
Well, I was
Grow
going to
up.
say it's like Dobby and the fabled
This
sock.
is delusional.
Families would give clothes to the needy and destitute so that they could enjoy a carnage for Christmas. Nobody wants to, so that's why people in Iceland they would give poor people clothes so that they didn't get attacked by the Yule cat. Yeah. There's
that's really
a
nice.
song. There's a song about him. And it's got a line. It goes, "You may have it now in your mind to help when it's needed. Maybe there are still children that receive nothing at all." So, again, another freaking poem song that doesn't rhyme. So I can see why.
That sounds like those commercials that are like for only 50 cents a day, and they're real tear jerkers,
I don't think they're not really tear jerking. I mean, I don't feel much sympathy for Ethiopians covered in flies.
Well, you know what they're trying to do,
Yeah,
Right.
They're targeting the tonsils of the world.
But
like Arms of
God.
an Angel plays.
but
Yeah,
what?
The animal commercials are sad
You're just a big softy for the animals.
Yeah.
That's fine. But the
No,
thing,
I don't
okay, so
really
back to the Yule cat, guys.
though. Yeah,
Iceland's own mental patient, Bjork, wrote a song about it. I was going to play it for the break, but I didn't want to get this episode monetized. But look up Bjork and Jólakötturinn, or however you pronounce that word. The giant Yule cat. It is equally as horrible as any other of Bjork's music. Yeah. All right, so other Christmas freaky things we've got.
Not good.
There's Hans Trapp is a French one. You did Hans Trapp? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I talked
I'm
about
going through my notes and I didn't see that. That must have been when
Yeah.
I got up to refill my coffee. I'm sorry.
we could talk about
the
cannibal,
French
dude.
cannibal, which
The
is
French cannibal.
Pierre Foutard.
Pierre
Foutard,
Foutard or
basically
something
his name
like that.
translates to Father Whipper. He, he's the whip guy. Oh, you know what we
Yeah.
did? Because I have these all in the correct order, and this guy's next after Hans. Sorry, you were right. But yeah, Pierre Foutard. He's a 12th century French. It's a French story. The guy was either an innkeeper or a butcher, depending on whose story you're reading. So there was these three boys who were on their way to church, and this guy robs and murders them. So after he kills them and stealing their money, the innkeeper and his wife, they chop the boys up and make stew out of them. So here we go again with kids getting made into stew. These freaking Europeans.
Yeah. I think there's two variants of the legend. There's one where he's a butcher that makes them into stew, and the other is he's an innkeeper and he pickles their limbs in the basement. Like he dismembers.
Well, there's an
them and
innkeeper
pickles
in
them
both
jars.
stories. One is the innkeeper he's the
pretty
innkeeper,
metal.
and then the other one is the wife is the innkeeper. Depending on which story. Yeah. So Saint Nick finds out, right? So and that's Father Christmas. There, he resurrects the boys. And as penance for his sins, he's got to accompany Saint Nicholas. Foutard has to accompany Saint Nicholas around every in December. So he's portrayed as dark
Seems
and
like he
sinister.
got off
So
kinda
a
easy.
black guy, surprise, surprise, robbed and murdered some white kids. All
For
right.
some Jordans. That's ridiculous.
The things
Have
they'll
we-
do for kicks around this time.
Those sweet
sweet
Nike
Nike
kicks.
kicks.
Yeah. I had another
shame.
episode where we talk about those sweet Nikes. Have you heard of Nick Ruprecht? Rupert the Servant is
I have
another Saint Nick's buddies. He's a German tale. He carries a stick and a bag of ashes. And basically, he asks kids if they pray, and if the kids say yes, they pray. They get chocolate, gingerbread, fruit, and nuts, And guess what happens to the kids who don't pray? Somebody guess.
He takes them to Auschwitz and puts them in his sack of ashes.
He beats them with his stick. This is true, yes. He beats them. Well,
it is
yes,
German
as again, we're talking German folklore. Auschwitz is German folklore. He beats them with his stick or his sack of ashes. Either way, he goes back. Yeah. So he what? Yeah, he's another one of those guys that beats kids that are bad.
I don't know what being beaten with a sack of ashes.
I don't want to know, but I don't suppose it. Yeah, I would think it'd be like rather pillowy, soft, and yet like I'd be like a like yeah.
Pillow.
Would it billow out through the bag and you breathe it?
That's what I'm saying. I think you would. You get the dust
probably
in your lungs and you That's right. I don't have my inhaler. He's been around since the Middle Ages. And he's usually associated with Black Peter. You guys know who Black Peter is? He's one of the Grimm's fairy tales. He's one of the Grimm's fairy tales things.
That's the Dutch thing, right?
He's like one of those pre-Christian pagan deals. He's like one of those. He's basically one of those like an elf or one of those household spirits who punishes people for not behaving. A lot of these Christmas is his skin
like actually black? Is that why he's called Black Peter? That could be a lot of Germanic folklore. There's like the dark elves kind of thing. They're kind of depicted as like or the dwarves. They're literally depicted as having black skin, not like black like Africa black, but literal like coal black. So it's interesting. Where is he from again? Germany.
We did Frau Perkta.
Okay.
But did you know that what's the Berchtesgaden? Okay, so that's where Hitler had a home back there, didn't he? He had a home in Obersalzberg, which is where basically overlooking the Berchtesgaden, which is where Frau Perkta was from. I just wanted to stick in a Hitler reference, basically.
Was Frau Perkta a Nazi?
Yeah.
Her name's derived from Bracht.
Yeah, she's our
which
girl.
is from Proto-German Bratz, meaning the bright one. So yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, there's actually a connection with her and the general winter solstice being a kind of a solar festival, despite it taking place in winter.
Is it to try to ask the sun to come back?
Yeah. So the idea was, especially back then, like you had in Tacitus, he references in Germania, he references Nerthus on like the Isis of the Suebi. And the idea is, to get fertility or to get something, to get life, you have to give it. So, the concept is that this nature goddess, almost like a Gaia or Demeter type figure, if you're more familiar with, Mediterranean type stuff. She gives, the new sun, vegetation will return, the mounting of evergreen reeds and stuff, all that comes from it being a vegetative, solar thing. The idea is that, you human sacrifice, and then the sun comes back, plants grow again, life returns to the earth because life has been given to this nature goddess.
Oh.
Yeah, and again, that could also be another tie-in to the horn god, Krampus, because again, Frau Perkta and Krampus have an association, and, the horn god, Cernunnos and whatnot of Celtic Gallic myth has a connection to, the old High German, nature goddess. Because High German, remember, is referring to southern Germany, high being, altitude.
All right, well, that's interesting. Okay, so I think we got all the Christmas monsters out of the way. Let's get to...
Yeah, what's the deal with Saturnalia?
Okay,
sure.
Do you want to get into Saturnalia now?
I'm saying that'll bring us around eventually to everybody's favorite, guy in the red suit, right?
Yeah. A lot of the Christmas traditions that we know and enjoy in modernity are directly from Saturnalia. So Saturnalia, it was a Roman festival that was held from the 17th of December through the 23rd, or sometimes the 25th of December. And it was, Saturn's festival. For anyone familiar with astrology and whatnot, the whole Capricorn constellation and whatnot, when Saturn essentially rises or whatever, that's the winter solstice. This year in particular, there's something special going on about that. I don't recall what precisely, but it's significant. Anyway, What were you saying?
Oh, there's just a weird squeaking noise. I don't know if it's
No, yeah,
just me.
I heard it.
Did you hear that?
It's Zev's.
No, I
Yeah, it's your internet.
Oh, it might be my dog. I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry.
It's all right.
Is it
It's
still
whatever.
going?
It's whatever. Go ahead.
it's not that bad. It's going.
Okay. So during Saturnalia, you had the Temple of Saturn, which was very prominent in Rome because one of Saturn's aspects was, he was kind of a god of sovereignty. He was a god of the state. So in the Temple of Saturn, you had a lot of sacrifices, bulls and goats and other sorts of animals, typical Roman pagan sacrifices, but in, very enthusiastic numbers because this is Saturnalia. This is kind of the big festival before the end of the year. So these festivities included a lot of society kind of being upended in a lot of ways. There were public banquets everywhere. A lot of the city's wealth was kind of put forth to contribute to these public spectacles of, generosity and gift-giving. And a lot of people, especially the wealthy Roman citizens, they would have banquets for their whole households in the property, and they would put statues of Saturn around, their dinner table, so that he would almost preside over the banquet or the feast, as if it's in his honor, like he's the head of the table. And this whole period, this week or 8 days, 9 days, it's very much like a carnival. It's like a week-long carnival. And again, Saturn, for people familiar with Roman or Greek myth, his Greek equivalent would be Kronos, father of Zeus. He ruled over the world in the primordial golden age before Zeus overthrew him and whatnot. But the idea is that during Saturnalia, life is for a few days how it used to be under Saturn all the time. So, this golden age was basically Christmas every day.
Definitely.
Sounds pretty good, right? Yeah. So, all this generosity, all this festivity, there's a lot of gambling and gift giving. It was very much like a carefree, festive spirit throughout the entire city and, probably the empire eventually, to kind of capture that primordial, almost Garden of Eden type existence. And so, again, because Saturn, he's primarily the god of the state, god of time, and so via time, he's kind of the god of death as well. In fact, the Romans equated him to Deus Pater, which is the Greek Hades, the ruler of the underworld. And as the god of time, all things end, all things die. So that's kind of where that connotation comes from. So much like the year, as it goes into winter, the season of death, that's Saturn's time. That's Saturn's festival. But in addition to that, he's also the god of the harvest and agriculture. So the idea is, as one year dies, as one harvest ends, another one begins. So it's a renewal of the new year, tying again into that whole new sun, new life thing. And that's where wreaths, hanging wreaths on your door, a lot of the vegetation, like the garlands people will put on their, the outlines on their roofs, that's all directly from Roman Saturnalia.
Yeah.
Wow, it's survived a really long time.
Yeah. It was a very prominent holiday. It was arguably
you got to remember that a lot of stuff survives through that. We've got a lot of pagan stuff in taken through Christianity throughout the ages.
How many of the days of the week?
Yeah, Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Thursday,
Saturn Day,
Friday, Monday.
Literally all of them. Well, their names in Latin directly correlate to the Roman gods, in French and Spanish and Italian, it's pretty evident. And then in the Germanic languages, it's their cognates. Like Tuesday comes from Tyr's Day, and Tyr was the Germanic equivalent of Mars. And then in French, it's Mardi, which is Mars Day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but so also during Saturnalia, like I said, there was the upheaval of society, and I don't know how accurate this one is because the source is kind of poetic. But the idea was they had kind of a fool king, which was for the one day or for the festival. He was the dictator of Rome, but he was almost like a jester type figure. He was very joyous and carefree and responsible for giving gifts. And he essentially kind of had the role of modern Santa Claus. He gave gifts to people. He was the arbitrator of Christmas cheer, or Saturnalia cheer in a sense. And so this role reversal also included, masters serving slaves and, serving them in the sense that they eat at their table and, they break bread together. They live as equals, if only for a short time.
Oh, so they were hosting them. They weren't getting acting as footstools and that kind of thing.
Yeah, the idea was, spreading good cheer. It's, the harvest festival. It's the primordial golden age where there was no slavery because everything was like the Garden of Eden. Everything was perfect.
Wow, and then, so this was a multiple day holiday.
Yeah. And like I said, that fool kind of dictator they had, the Christmas cheer dictator, some sources say that he would end up actually being sacrificed to Saturn at the end of it. So again, kind of like the Frau Perkta nature goddess thing. The idea was, for this whole festival, he rules over as, this almost prince of fertility and dictator of new life and whatnot. But then at the end of it, he's offered to Saturn because, again, you have to give life for life to be given to you in a sense of connecting with the divine. I'm mistaken. Again, another reference to the vegetation and harvest aspect of Saturn is that I think the sacrifice was more or less burnt to death on a pyre of essentially like Christmas wreaths. So it's a pretty metal Christmas they had going on.
How did that end up becoming Christmas?
Well, so when Constantine, wanted to convert the Roman Empire to Christianity, because you have to remember it was kind of a gradual buildup that Christians acquired power within Rome. And so at the time, the old Roman pagan beliefs were very popular, but there were also two relatively new cults that were very popular, and that was the cult of Mithras and the cult of Sol Invictus. And in both of those cults, the 25th of December was supposedly the date of where Mithras, the sun god, was born and whatnot. So
weren't they both kind of
wrap
almost the same, like the Sol Invictus and Mithras?
Yeah, they were. I'm not trying to be vague and blend them together, but they're really, really similar. So for the purpose of this podcast,
we can do a whole
the differences is kind of not relatively important.
Where is Mithras from? Is he Persian?
Yes, I was going to say we could do an entire.
Mithras is Persian.
We could do an entire podcast
episode on Mithras and Zoroastrianism.
I was going to say we could do an entire podcast.
I'm sorry,
Johnny. Just all the soul deities, going back to Horus, Mithras. All of Ra. Yeah, that's that'd be a good one. Tie them all back into Jesus.
Yeah. But yeah, it would be a good one. So anyway, the centered on the sun, and again in Christianity, there's a lot of Jesus is the light of God. All the light, sun references. We all are pretty familiar with those by now, I trust. So the idea was for the early church, if you want to get a lot of these pagans to essentially, toe the line and do what you want them to do, you have to give them something. So the idea was, they offered the idea that they roll Saturnalia and these beliefs about Sol Invictus and Mithras, and they kind of roll it up and say, this is good stuff, and you can still celebrate these festivals, but they're actually honoring Jesus because Jesus is the light, and Jesus is all this stuff. And I think it was Pope Julius the First or Pope Julius the Second who officially delegated that December 25th was supposedly the date of Jesus' birth. Although it would make more sense that Jesus was born in the spring or something because they reference, shepherds tending to their flock like that in the middle of the winter solstice.
Oh yeah, just getting those winter sheep.
Yeah, so when they Christianized Northern Europe, how they rolled a lot of the Germanic folk tradition into not Catholic dogma, but practice, just to kind of appease their native traditions. More or less the same concept.
Yeah, how do we get from Mithras to Santa Claus?
So Mithras kind of connects more to the Jesus aspect. Santa is, I don't mean to offend anyone, but Santa is far more interesting related to Christmas than.
So how do we go from Mithras and Sol Invictus to Santa Claus?
Well, those two pertain more to Jesus rather than Santa himself, but Santa is kind of an amalgamation of several figures. Like I said earlier, Saturn was, he's depicted as an old man, heavily bearded with a staff, and he kind of, he wanders throughout the world during Saturnalia depositing gifts, and he presides over a festival where a lot of gifts are given in his honor, even at state expense. The Temple of Saturn's treasury actually provided most of the funding for the public giving and banquets and such. But Santa Claus, despite those connotations to Saturn, is far more derived from Germanic traditions and Yule. And, this is where you'll get all the pagans getting excited because Yule is, they love to claim, oh, Christmas is actually Yule. I mean, Christmas is a result of many traditions over the years. Yeah. So Yule, it's, again, a winter solstice kind of thing. And I believe it takes place over like the same time period. It's like December 17th through, I think in their case, it's January 1st. And it's, it's the Germanic winter solstice. It's a time when heavily connotated again to death. Like I said, it's kind of like the Halloween death spirit that we associate with, October and autumn. Yeah, it carries on into winter for the Germanic.
I was going to say, Yule is, earlier you said the winter solstice to the first of the year, right? Yeah, no, it is. It's the winter solstice to the first of the year. Yeah.
I believe so. That's pretty. Oh, okay. Yeah. So anyway, the like you said earlier, you're talking about how Perkta is semi the reason for goose being eaten on Christmas. A lot of people think of how we have Thanksgiving and turkey. A lot of people think of ham and Christmas, and that comes from Yule, because in the Germanic countries, which going back would include England, Germany, the Low Countries, Scandinavia, they had the Yule boar, and the Yule boar was essentially you would hunt a big bad boar for this feast, this banquet, and you'd give it all the fixings and such, and you'd have the feast centered around the Yule boar. That's why in a lot of Germanic folklore and even stuff like Lord of the Rings, it's always that the boar, the pig is kind of, the ham is the centerpiece of the banquet. It comes from that. And that's also where the Yule log tradition comes from, for this banquet, families would prepare, and, the men would go out and collect, these big tree logs, and they'd, put it in the middle of their hall, and they'd burn it. And in some traditions, the Yule festival lasted as long as the log would burn. So,
right.
It could be
well, even, Yule's celebrated by, all over the world. It's the winter solstice. You've got, the Chinese call it the, Dongzi festival, excuse me. It's the winter solstice, same deal. Even a certain tribe recognizes the winter solstice. It's the Tekufat Tevet. So it's very important. It's very important to just about everybody. The winter solstice.
Yeah. Well, like I said, that idea that it's the new year, the new sun returning to the earth to give life to the land again. That's very pervasive through human myth, which would almost make me think that it had some kind of origin as far back.
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, you got to remember that, even in the story of Christ, it's got to do with around that time of year, anyways, with the sun, dying on the cross and being dead for 3 days, where the sun is at the lowest point, which is at the lowest point of the year is going to be the winter solstice, is the longest day, and the next 2 days are the next two longest days. So there's your, you know what I mean? Yeah. So, it's a very important. It's a very important time of the year. It's also a celebration because they know it's the end of the year, and it's going to be when the sun rises again. It's the beginning of the new year, and in the new year is coming the spring, and the spring comes the crops and the food. So I could see how the rebirth. I could see how that would go back even to antediluvian ancient times. Just because it's the stars and sun.
Well, yeah, and then you have the tie-in of Easter then too. I mean, if Christ rises, like you were saying with the winter solstice kind of thing, when he rises again, that's the life returning to earth, or whatever. It's the spirit of God returning to earth. Christ is returning.
Now how do we go from there to Saint Nicholas?
Well, so Saint Nicholas, again, he had his origins in the Christian faith, and like we were talking about earlier, like the story with France and whatnot. He had his saintly repertoire going with him. But when the Germanic countries were Christianized, they had a lot of cult importance on this time of year, like we were talking about. So as I said, it was still the season of death, and Odin is the god of death Vodin or Votan for the Anglo-Saxons. So at this time of year, you guys have probably heard of this, is the wild hunt, which is when the idea is that all the spirits that are, in Niflheim or in the underworld, the non-glorious dead, they return to the earth to look for glory, or to look for loved ones or things they miss from their mortal lives. So again, kind of like a Halloween type of thing. But a lot of these spirits, because it's kind of further into the season of death, it's like the badder ones are getting out. So they torment people. And this is, again, where kind of that Krampus elf, tormenting thing comes in for the Christmas season, is these spirits, of the dead, or, demons, as we might call them. They torment people. They torture them. They, fuck with them. They kill their livestock. They burn their barns down. They do all sorts of nasty stuff. But, this is when the glorious dead, the people that had, gone on to Valhalla or Folkvanger or these other, halls, or, essentially heaven, they essentially ride, through the sky on steeds of light and such, and they're being led by Odin himself. And they hunt these evil spirits like they were, like they were deer, like they were boar, like in the way that old medieval, kings and their men would hunt, and deer and boar in the woods, on horseback with bows and such, and spear. The concept was the same, but like a spiritual great hunt. And so there had that aspect that Odin was tied to, but he was also, one of his aspects beyond the god of death was he was the god of wisdom and like wandering kind of, journeys. So during this time of year, he would also travel around the land and he would give gifts to people, or he would, bless them with different, boons. But he would travel around, as just an old man in a large gray coat, and you can picture a Santa coat, except, gray, not flashy and red. And he would travel around, to different households. It's just an old man, traveler knocking on the door, very mysteriously would produce, a sack with, wonderful jewelry or, provisions, clothing, things that you'd want as a gift or something that's nice. Or he would show up to your house and, you'd be found wanting and he would curse you, or he would outright, kill you. Again, god of death, drag you to hell kind of thing. So again, maybe that Krampus, St. Nicholas, yin and yang thing is kind of paralleled or draws inspiration from the old stories of Odin kind of as an aspect of Father Winter traveling around and, giving people stuff. Because another thing is Odin is also the god of winter in the sense he's the god of death and mystery and just kind of like darkness in both a literal and spiritual sense.
So now we're at...
Yeah, and...
so now we're at
Norway.
And we're moving forward.
And this is where we start to get to Santa Claus. This is still like the Middle Ages.
To be fair, Saint Nicholas was what, 4th century?
But the Christianization of the Germanic peoples didn't come until the 8th through 11th centuries.
So
in Norway in the Germanic countries in general, these Christmas traditions or the Yuletide traditions were, again, like Saturnalia, they were kind of co-opted by Christianity and rolled into their repertoire. And so, St. Nicholas became the Christian representative of Odin, more or less, because, he traveled around doing good deeds and whatnot. I'm not entirely sure why St. Nicholas was chosen as opposed to another saint.
Why St. Nicholas was chosen as the Santa Claus guy? Well,
yeah.
Well, the thing is, so St. Nicholas... he basically, it started because of the hanging up the stockings, that's where this comes from. So basically there's a poor guy who had 3 daughters. He was so poor, the guy was so poor he didn't have money for a dowry. So, remember back then, if you didn't have a dowry, your daughter couldn't get married. If guys don't know what a dowry is, it's it's money that the bride's parents pay the bridegroom. Some people still happens with mostly like sheep and stuff nowadays. But, one night, Nicholas dropped a bag of gold down the chimney into the house so that the oldest daughter could get married. The bag fell into a stocking that had been hung by the fire to dry, and whoa, there was a dowry. So later on, the second daughter magically received a bag of gold down the chimney, and the second one got the gold. So the father was like, all right, I got to figure out who's doing this, who's helping my daughters get married off. So the father hid by the fire every night until he finally saw Nicholas drop in the bag of gold. And Nicholas, basically begged the dad to not tell anybody because he didn't want to bring attention to himself. But the news got out, of course, obviously, because you can't keep that kind of a thing secret. And anytime anybody received a secret gift after that, it was from Nicholas, who, because of this, because of this kindness, he was made a saint. So there's the story of that, and that's why we put stockings. That's why we put stockings.
Cool.
And he wasn't just a saint of that, but he was also saint of children and sailors, which is a strange combination. Well, there was a story. There's a story about him helping some sailors off the coast of Turkey. They were all afraid that the ship was going to sink, and they prayed to Saint Nicholas to help him. And I don't know why. Like, please bring us a gift. I don't know, a gift of saving us. But that's what happened. He brought them water wings. He is from Saint Nicholas is from Myra in Asia Minor, so Turkey. He's from Turkey.
Yes. Southwest Turkey.
Yes. He was eventually exiled from Myra and put into prison by, I don't want to mispronounce his name, Diocletian. Okay. Yeah, he was put in prison. And yeah, it was the 6th of December in either 345 or 352. So the 6th of December is one of the reasons. Is there you have the Saint Nicholas feast day. That's why you have the 6th of December in Europe. Once it was Christianized, 6th of December is like then the Krampus night and the Christmas night and Saint Nicholas night and all that stuff. There's that. So that's how Saint Nicholas. That's how the stocking thing. So how did Saint Nick? Do you know how Saint Nicholas became Santa Claus? Okay.
Yeah. They take that figure that you just described. And so I guess, the patron of gift giving, patron of children, would very much match up with Odin as Father Winter wandering the countryside, distributing gifts and blessings to good people. And I think the great coat and the sleigh and all that stuff, I think that's also derived of Odin. Because remember, the Wild Hunt, Odin is riding Sleipnir, the 8-legged horse. There are other depictions of him like in a chariot pulled by horses. The reindeer, I think, would probably be a regional adaptation for Scandinavia, because I'm pretty sure the Brothers Grimm said in ancient, like in Germanic folklore, there are some versions where Santa Claus has white
they're not
horses,
reindeer.
like Snow White horses.
Speaking of the reindeer, did you guys, that it's wintertime, right? When Christmas comes around, December 25th, and all the reindeer have their antlers, right? If you've ever seen, Rudolph and the boys would technically be girls. Do you guys know that? Because only female reindeer their antlers throughout the winter.
Oosh.
My life is a lie.
Don't most deer species
with the reindeer, I guess it's both, and only the female keep their antlers during the winter.
Female reindeer,
they do.
They have little ones, I think, like little tiny pricks on their skull.
Right,
the males,
regardless,
have
only the female
antlers.
keep theirs throughout the winter. So again, the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer is a lie.
So they're gender bending.
But so of course they did.
The Jews did this.
Yeah, so Santa Claus, Father Christmas, Old Man Christmas. In France, he was Père Noël, Father Winter. Excuse me,
Father Winter.
There's
I think Slav Santa Claus is very much a Father Winter thing. I'm not as familiar with the Russian or the East Slavic folklore, but I recall reading something about that their Russian Santa Claus is basically, he wears a blue coat, blue and white instead of red and white, and he travels on a sleigh, like pulled over the snow rather than through the sky, and he essentially travels throughout the frozen hellhole and distributes presents to all.
Yeah, in the Dutch they called him Sinterklaas, which is obviously the precursor to Santa Claus. But in the United States, in early USA, it wasn't Santa Claus; it was Kris Kringle, like from Christkind. So that is from Austrian Germany. Was the Christkind, a golden-haired baby with wings, who basically symbolized the newborn baby Jesus. Baby Jesus laying there in his manger. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the German element, the Christmas tree. I know I talked about the wreaths and garland and stuff being a Roman thing.
Oh, yeah,
the trees themselves are a German thing. The first Christmas tree was allegedly Martin Luther. While walking home from church, he looked up at the night sky, and looking at all the stars swirling around above the tree line, he thought, wow, this is beautiful. I have to recreate this in my home. So he got an evergreen tree. He put it up in his home, and he lit candles, and decorated the tree with lit candles and ornamentation. and that was allegedly the first, Christian Christmas tree. But the Christmas tree, tradition kind of, again, goes back to pagan times where the evergreen tree was put in the household to kind of keep watch as a reminder that life will return, vegetation will return, the harvest.
Did you guys know about the theory of the presents under the tree and the flying reindeer? It has to do with a special type of mushroom that grows under certain evergreen trees that's your present under the tree. And these deer would eat this and act all crazy. They'd get high off the mushroom or whatever, and there's your flying reindeer. There's a book. There's a book. Yeah, there's a book. So yeah, it's the mushroom that looks like the Smurf house. The little red and white with the white dots. I don't remember the actual name of it off the top of my head, but there's a book. There's a book all about the psychedelic aspects of Christmas, and it's it's this European mushroom that grows underneath certain evergreen tree, and the deers eat them and they get all wild. I believe it is.
Is it red and white? I think that's literally the same mushroom that the old Germanic berserkers used to eat.
Yeah, that's the one the deer would go absolutely nuts in this. So there's your flying reindeer. There's your flying reindeer.
They're berserking reindeer. Santa Claus is pulled by a berserking reindeer. Holy crap.
And that's the reason why we leave presents. I'm saying that's why you leave the presents under the tree.
Really
because this was the present under the tree. Yep.
That's intense. Maybe their names are like Thunder and Lightning. Maybe that's descriptive of their behavior.
What were you going to say, Zev? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there with that.
Oh no, that was just it. That all their names are really like hardcore. Like you think of the Christmas reindeer, and you think, oh, they're Santa's happy little farm animals that help him. But their names are like Thunder and Lightning and Wind and all this kind of.
So it's not Donner and Dasher and Prancer and Vixen.
Oh no, Donner and Blitzen. That's literally Thunder and Lightning in German.
Yeah.
Oh,
I got autism. It took me the whole episode to get it.
Autism.
All right. Well, so we got Christmas. We got Santa Claus. We got presents under the tree. We got stockings. We got there's the urban legend that Santa. Santa wears a red suit, right? The red suit. There's this urban legend that Coca-Cola created the red suit.
I was about to ask that because I remember reading that he didn't really become popular as like the red suited jolly diabetes guy until the Coca-Cola advertising campaign.
Right.
Their main colors red and white.
Back in Victorian times, he wore red, green, blue, brown, whatever. But St. Nicholas himself always favored a red robe, so he had the red bishop's robes. So that was him. So that's where that came from. But in 1863, Harper's Weekly magazine published the very first illustration of Saint Nick, and he was wearing a Stars and Stripes outfit. So every year, this one particular artist would draw him, and he drew him in several different outfits. The guy's name was Thomas Nast, N-A-S-T. I'm not sure if who this guy was, but he drew for Harper's, and over the years, he started to draw him with the big tummy and the red and white outfits. And so, of course, there's the poem, Visit from St. Nicholas, which is basically the night before Christmas. So there's that, which I believe mentioned him wearing red. So I don't know. In 1931, that was when the original Coca-Cola Santa was 1931. And that was drawn by Haidt.
It was that long.
I want to do it. It's got its son to Blom. So he took the idea of Nast Santa. Nast had to be a goy. Now I'm positive Nast was a goy, and made him more larger than life. Replaced the pipe with a glass of Coca-Cola, and there's your famous Coke holding Santa.
Yeah, I have to admit the old school like Father Christmas from like Germany and England in the 1800s, like the basically Gandalf looking Santa where he's like smoking. Oh,
Santa
a pipe
always smoked a pipe up until the Coca-Cola Santa. Cool. It's a little advertising there. We got to change it up a little bit to sell some more toys. I don't know. Yeah, so there's Santa Claus. There's all this all this good. There's more winter festivals. There's there's Hanukkah and Kwanzaa, but I mean we don't want to get into those. We're talking about important ones.
So does the I forgot to ask earlier, does the tradition of him going up and down the chimney, does that come from the story you told about the
no, that's the chimney because the bags of gold came down the chimney.
That's the origin.
So therefore, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it was never that he himself came down the chimney. So that whole trope.
No, I don't know where that comes from. You guys ever hear of the Christmas pickle? No, it's hey Scott, you're still here.
Yeah,
no, it's a pickle morning.
There's no Santa Claus.
It came from these glass ornaments come from Germany. So it's apparently the Christmas pickle is a very old German tradition, and that the Christmas pickle was the last ornament. The pickle would be the last ornament to be hung on the tree, and then the first child to find the pickle got an extra present. Find the pickle sounds like something somebody would do in a casting room near a potted plant, but yeah. So it's I don't know. The thing is now people in Germany have never heard of the Christmas pickle, but of course most Russians have never heard of babushka either anymore. So I mean these are all old things that have all faded away thanks to the commercialization.
Yeah, which is really, I think, the saddest thing. Like, I remember, like, all the aesthetic and feel of, this time of year is very magical. It's very archaic. It takes you back traditions that span centuries or, millennia. And now it's been rendered into, it's your 2017 Dodge Challenger for zero financing in the name of the Christmas spirit.
That and, like, I see these commercials where it's like, I forgot what it was. It was a couple of years back when I used to watch TV. And there was this woman and like there's a line of people outside of her door and she's just like it's like it's the babysitter and the dog walker and the this and the that and this person and the that person and you got that's the thing is you have to buy something for everybody. You have to give somebody something. You have to give I mean like Christmas presents used to be like I remember, and this is whatever you guys are gonna call me fucking nerd for reading books, but I remember reading it's Little House on the Prairie, dude. When I was really young, I used to read those. We had to read them in like whatever grade it was, and then I actually enjoyed them, so I read the rest of them. But they were given Christmas presents. They were based on like necessity, and like they didn't have. I remember the one she got like something that was like made out of fur and it was to keep her warm, or it was like I don't remember, it was like a hand warmer or some shit. But I mean like Christmas presents it wasn't just something you wanted. I want a PS4 with the VR headset and and whatever. But no, it's like Christmas used to be you give people gifts. It was handmade things and crocheted and knitted things, and it was more about it was the sentiment of the present and the necessity of it as opposed to just the commercial, buy me stuff. It's horrible, man.
Yeah. A handmade gift to address a real need rather than, a Black Friday stampede.
Yeah, or a handful of gift cards. Like, what the fuck is a gift? Here, I'm so fucking lazy. Go buy yourself something.
Well, you gonna send them a $30 gift card to Applebee's?
That's actually, Applebee's is terrible. It's the only restaurant I've ever gotten sick from twice, which means I've been there more than once. But anyways. All right, well.
Chain restaurants in general.
Yeah, but my advice this holiday season, just don't watch TV.
If you got it.
Like, that's going to solve a lot of your problems. You can watch your Christmas movies. That's good.
Yeah.
With the family.
No, everybody.
Out, but just
It's a Wonderful Life is a great Christmas movie.
Read a book.
Christmas Carol is a great movie. Christmas Story, dude, You'll Shoot Your Eye Out is one of my favorite movies in the history of movies. My dad and I used to watch it. It used to be on. You guys remember TNT, the channel TNT? 24-hour marathon. My dad and I would sit there and just watch it like 5 or 6 times in a row. Hell yeah, dude. My dad called it. That's what he called it. You'll shoot. He's like, Johnny, come on down here. You'll Shoot Your Eye Out is on. So yeah, that's the. I love that fucking movie, dude. I mean, whatever. The National Lampoon's Vacation movie, Christmas Vacation is funny. Even as much as I hate Will Ferrell, it's stupid, but funny, and my kid's getting into it too. He's getting into the Christmas movies. He's really into, he loves Christmas, of course, because he's a kid. But just get into the season. Be with your family. Love your family. Don't worry about the fucking people that go nuts at Christmas for fucking movies and stuff. Star Wars sucked. This Star Wars sucked. You're wrong, Dan. You're wrong, Danny. Anyways,
Greatest movie ever.
They haven't made a new Star Wars movie.
They haven't made a good Star Wars movie since 1983. So
that's not ethical, Adam. You can't do that.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
You can have a
Scott,
Death Star,
was
but
that,
you can't do the Ram thing.
Was it 80?
Oh, I said
Jedi?
1983. Who's counting? 83 was.
I was
the
giving
Summer
Jedi the
Landscape.
benefit of
I
the
didn't
doubt.
like
I
that
mean,
one.
because of course, the best movie is Empire Strikes Back. It's the best of all the movies.
Okay,
but but like they haven't made a good film since then. Anyways, all right.
Oh, the Star Wars
Unpopular
Christmas
opinion.
special.
Which one was good?
I thought that
gosh.
Rogue One was pretty good.
I haven't.
Yeah,
Rogue One.
No, Rogue One was a good
One
movie.
that
It had
wasn't
nothing to do.
episode 7 or episode 8.
It was an okay movie.
Wait, that one has.
No, it was pretty good. No,
That
I
one
liked
has
it
nothing
myself,
to do
but it
with-
wasn't a Star Wars
I
movie
thought it was
really per
pretty
se.
good. I liked it.
definitely.
I liked
I
it
agree
better than most.
And we're
of
back
the
to being the
prequels.
pause button. No. Let's
Wait. So
Yeah,
if it's
all right. So
okay, yeah.
So
no,
guys, in closing at Christmas, Merry Christmas, you guys. Hang out with your family. Yeah,
Hang out with your family.
watch out for Krampus.
Watch out for Krampus.
Be good. Yeah, don't let.
Don't get eaten. Don't get eaten by the bastard son of a refugee and a goat.
That's right.
Yeah, and
If you
watch
have
out for
roommates,
the
watch out for the
roommate
roommate
goblins.
Yeah. Don't let them.
Don't want them in the bath.
don't
Why
let
are they
them
in the
force
bathroom in the
the
first place? Why are you
toilet
taking a
while you're
shower? All right.
Yeah. Don't let them.
Voyeurism.
Yeah, because then you have to go milk that
So
giant
it
thing
gets
with
bad.
9 tits. Okay.
You gotta watch them. They're assholes.
All right, guys. Well, listen, we're gonna get out of here. Merry Christmas, Goyim, from Adam and Scott and Zev. Shut up.
Happy Hanukkah.
We're gonna have a Krampus creepypasta to take you out through the holidays, and we'll see you after Christmas later. Merry Christmas. Time travel makes you good. I was only a child when I saw Krampus. My family had just immigrated to this country. We had left our every earthly possession behind, but the memories and stories of our homeland followed us on our journey. Once we arrived, we immediately settled into the same ghetto that so many others from Eastern European village had. A decrepit row of 4-storied slums along an alleyway that was more sewer than street. Our father, during the few hours that he was home from the meal, said that we were better off here, but my sister and I missed the deep forests and high mountains that we played in only a short time ago. Even when I tried to imagine myself back at home, my real home, the noise of the city always broke my thoughts and brought me back to the alleyway. My mother tried best to remind us of our old life. Often, as my sister and I were crawling into the bed where we shared, she would tell us these stories. The same stories that she said that her mother had told her. Some of these stories were exciting, others made us laugh, but a few terrified us. The most awful story told of an evil one who until the deepest part of winter was to kidnap naughty children. We shuddered as she told us how it would torment children just like us, and sometimes we would even pretend to fall asleep in the desperate hope that she would stop, but she would always finish the story. Our father would often tell her not to fill our heads with such horrible things, that our tales from our homeland should remain there. Mother, though, would shake her head quietly and insist that it was dangerous to forget where we came from. Our lives continued like this for the next several months. I believed that I would eventually come to see our forgotten alleyway as a home, but its sense of foreignness persisted. In fact, it felt as though hardly anything changed since we arrived. Our lives had neither improved nor gotten worse, and I still felt like an unwanted stranger in my own neighborhood. The only thing that had changed was our behavior. My sister and I had recently begun getting into trouble more often. We never meant to hurt anyone. It was just that we had so little, and sometimes we had to steal if we wanted to eat that day. Usually our misdeeds were my sister's idea, and I followed along. I guess one always looks up to their older sibling, and never believed that their petty crimes would ever have serious consequences. But looking back now, I can see we were walking blindly down a dark path. I can even remember when things took an ominous turn. Ever since All Saints' Day, our mother had been warning us to be good children. She pleaded with us to stop our bad behavior. I remember her crying a lot. Early in December, my sister got caught stealing a piece of fruit, and I thought my mother's heart would break. She began to shake and pulled the rosary beads out of her pocket. For the rest of the night, she clutched the beads tightly and desperately repeated her prayers. When I finally asked what was wrong, she paused just long enough to glance at the window and hissed, "He knows! He knows! It might be too late!" I didn't know what she meant, but I was scared. My sister didn't seem to care. The days passed and the temperature dropped. It was the night before Christmas and snow began to fall. The eathing had already gone out several times, and the flickering lights threatened to go out as well. As we would be attending the sunrise mass the next morning, my father told my sister not to go bathe. Suddenly, my mother began shrieking for us not to be alone. I heard my father quickly move towards her and began trying to comfort her in a deep, soft voice. She quieted down some, but still insisted that we not be alone. My father told us to take our baths quickly and then joined them. As we headed down the hallway towards the washroom, my sister sprinted ahead of me and stood in the doorway. "I'll go first," she said. "I won't be long." I stomped my foot, but said nothing as the door closed. On the best of days, there was barely enough warm water for everyone in our family to bathe. With the heat going out, I was likely only enough warm water for a single bath, and my sister knew this. I bounced from one foot to the other as I stood outside the door trying to keep warm. I heard her draw the water and then began singing softly to herself as she dipped in the water. After a few minutes, the singing had stopped, and I began to fear that she had fallen asleep in the tub. And I heard a noise, a sharp clacking noise, like someone was wearing wooden shoes. It was slow, but deliberate, almost like it was sneaking up on something. I knocked on the door and the clacking stopped. No answer. I assumed my sister was just ignoring me or possibly trying to irritate me as she often did. The noise began again, this time even slower. I pressed my ear to the door and held my breath. The clicking noise had stopped, but I could now hear a light tinkling sound like the chime of 100 bells playing in the distance. I listened until I could hear my own heartbeat, and then I heard a soft splash. She hadn't fallen asleep. She was playing a game, waiting to see how long I would stand in the cold hallway while she turned her fingers and toes into warm prunes. I knocked again, louder this time. Still no answer. I was quite frustrated and cold by this time, and so, without another knock, I swung open the door and stepped inside. As I did, the power in our building went out. The hallway behind me plunged into total darkness, and I heard my mother give a cry of fright. I blinked my eyes a few times. The small heater in the corner of the washroom cast an eerie glow across the room. Feeling my way until my eyes adjusted, I stepped around the curtain at the end of the tub and began to scold my sister for taking too long. Then I saw it. It was standing beside the tub. Though it was hunched over, it must have stood nearly 7 feet tall, with its horns adding another foot or so. Coarse black fur like the pelt of a goat covered its body. It had thick, powerful legs that ended in hoofs, the source of the clicking noise. A thick tail whipped through the air behind it like a cobra circling its prey. Heavy chains wrapped around its muscular shoulders and torso. As it inhaled and exhaled, the chains produced their bell-like chimes. Yellowed eyes that burned with a smoldering rage stared down from above its twisted nose. A wheezing, bubbling sort of breath passed between its fangs and incisors that extended so far from its mottled gums that I could not believe it could have possibly closed its mouth completely. A long, pointed tongue hung down past its scarred and disfigured chin like some grotesque dog, and thick globules of spittle collected at the corners of its mouth. One of these broke free and fell into the tub. I looked down and saw its hands, long and hairless. Each finger ended in a sharp nail. It was wrapped in the same kind of corpulent skin as a vulture's bald head, the result of too much exposure to rotting flesh. Then I noticed the thin wisps of hair floating up between its fingers, my sister's hair. The beast was holding her head under the water. I screamed, only at this point did it look at me. It was not alarmed, but rather seemed almost whimsically bemused, as if I was asking the riddle it already knew the answer to. Looking directly at me, I stood up to its full height, its horns now brushing the ceiling. As it stood, it lifted my sister out of the water. My screams caught in my throat, and I began to choke. It held her with a single hand, each of its 5 sharp nails having pierced completely through her body. Strangely, the only coherent thought that passed through my mind at that moment was the hope that my sister had already drowned and could not feel the pain. The beast took a step towards me and gave a dry, shrill laugh that sounded like an animal being strangled. It held my sister out as if it were cruelly offering her body to me. We then heard footsteps in the hallway. My parents were running to see what was the matter. The beast quickly wrapped its heavy chains around my sister's lifeless body and cinched her to its back. Then, with surprising agility, it threw open the window and leaped onto the narrow ledge. It bounced there for a moment, then it turned to look at me one last time. Our eyes met, and at that moment it burned the full horror of itself into my very soul. Then it leapt from the ledge and disappeared. My parents were already in the washroom before I realized the beast was gone. They held me tight and began asking me what was the matter. I could not speak, but only pointed towards the tub and then the window. My mother was the first to notice my sister's clothes laying beside the tub and instantly ran to open the window. I heard her scream curses in our old language at the darkness. Then she collapsed and my father ran to her, begging for someone to tell him what was going on. My mother was near fainting and could only point to the hoof-like print in the snow on the ledge and speak a single word. Krampus. I don't remember much after that. 4 days later, my sister's body was found by a sewer gate. There was no investigation, no arrests made. To this society, she was just another dead immigrant child. no different in the eyes than the drowned sewer rat. Not that it mattered much. No manhunt would ever turn up that creature which was not a man. I am old now. Over the years I have seen all of my friends from that hellish ghetto die, some of them in horrible accidents, yet I have always found some measure of peace with every one of their deaths. I do realize that death is inevitable, but there is one fact that keeps me from finding peace with my sister's death. When the police officer came to visit my family, he said that my sister had only been dead an hour before they found her body.